เลยค่ะ
Okay, today we are going to talk about the depth of Sikkha Dhamma. And before we begin the class, as always, we need to mention about the important notes that Dhamma provided in this presentation is simple and not compira or profound. People must continuously study Dhamma or else it will lead to Mahatapa, Niraya or hell, because it is Micchatitti, not following the Buddha's teaching. If any provided content contrast with Dhamma 84,000 Dhammakantaka, please refer to Dhamma 84,000 Dhammakantaka only. What day is today? Today is 6th Sukha Pakhatsa, Tutiya Asalaha Masasa Mahaputtashyanti 2612 or July 23rd, Buddhist era 2566.
we going to นมัสการปรมัตถอนุตตรสัมมาสัมโพธิวีสติอริยมรรค
วีส
วี
ติ
สติสามัญญคะเอกนิพพานะขิปปาพิญญาโดยเฉียบพลันในประวัติการนี้เถิด
Okay. Before Anuttara Samma Sampodhi enter Parinibbana, Anuttara Samma Sampodhi mentioned to Pramaha Ananta that Yovo Ananta Maya Dhammo Ja Vinayo Ja Tesito Panyato Sovo Mama Jayena Sattha, or translate into English that Ananta, Dhamma and Vinaya will be your teacher when Anuttara Samma Sampodhi enters Parinibbana. That's why we need to Sikkha Dhamma. And for Dhamma and Vinaya, in details, for Dhamma consisting of 63,000 Dhammakantaka, and Vinaya contain 21,000 Dhammakantaka, altogether 84,000 Dhammakantaka. The responsibility of the for Putta Parisa consisting of three main responsibilities. The first one is for Putta Parisa must well understand the Tipitaka 84,000 Dhammakantaka. And the second one is the for Putta Parisa must be able to correctly present 84,000 Dhammakantaka. And the third one is the for Putta Parisa must be able to correct those who condemn or misunderstand the Tipitaka 84,000 Dhammakantaka.
So now we are praying to the respect to our Tipitaka Dhammacariya Sushana on who is the leader who carried Dhamma, Paramatha Dhamma to us, no? And Tan Angka Kuna Ariya Dhamma Sota Panna. Okay. Supatipanno. 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 สาธุสาธุสาธุนวุติอุปนิธิพันธะอนุโมทามิ
Okay. Before we going to the depth of Sikkha Dhamma, first one we need to be able to classify how many groups of human beings are there, so we can identify which group of people can enter the depth of Sikkha Dhamma. The first one is the Manusa, as we always mentioned that Manusa is divided into four types. The first one is Manusa Nirayo, the second one is Manusa Peto, the third one is Manusa Tirashano, and the fourth one is Manusa Tevo. The first three groups of three types of Manusa consisting of Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano. These three Manusa during the day, they perform only three sanya, which called Kama Sanya, Gochara Sanya, and Morana Sanya. And these three sanya consisting of your daily activities. For example, like sleep, wake up, eating food, having food, travel, work, study, play with your friends, party, something like that. All that activities are classified into Sanya 3, or Kama Sanya, Gochara Sanya, and Morana Sanya. And the special type of Manutsa, we call it Manusa Tevo. This Manusa Tevo have special sanya or special activities. They have Dhamma sanya or Sikkha Dhamma or study Dhamma. These special activities leads them to be able to understand Dhamma and leads them to the different ways than Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, and Manusa Tirashano. During the day, Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano, their feelings will remains in will occurs in happy, indifferent, sad, dissatisfied, angry, hate, envy, etc. And for Manusa Nirayo, they can remain calm and happy. That's why these two main groups of people of Manusa are different. The first group, Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano, and the second group is Manusa Tevo. And for and to enter the depth of Sikkha Dhamma, only one type of these four types of Manusa that can enter that depth of Sikkha Dhamma, which is Manusa Tevo. Okay. To change from Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano into Manusa Tevo, there is only the way, only way to do that, which is Sikkha Dhamma. That's why Sikkha Dhamma is needed, as Anuttara Samma Sambodhi mentioned before, enter Parinibbana, that Dhamma Vinaya will be your teacher when Anuttara Samma Sambodhi enters Parinibbana. That's why we need to Sikkha Dhamma. And as we mentioned, that Dhamma altogether, they consisting of 84,000 Dhammakantaka, and these 84,000 Dhammakantaka, firstly, they divided into two main groups. The first one is Dhamma consisting of 63,000 Dhammakantaka, and the second group is Vinaya, that contain 21,000 Dhammakantaka. And after that, Dhamma was divided into two groups. The first one is Suttanta, that contains 21,000 Dhammakantaka, and the second one is Abhidhamma, that contains 42,000 Dhammakantaka. Altogether, with Vinaya, 21,000 Dhammakantaka, they are now three main groups, as we familiar with. We call them Tipitaka. That's a group of Dhamma that we are familiar with. Our Sikkha Dhamma today, and within that three groups of Tipitaka, the first one we call it Vinaya, 21,000 Dhammakantaka. The second one is Suttanta.
อะไรไม่ไปกัน
ไม่มีสไลด์
Oh, okay.
And the second group is Suttanta, 21,000 Dhammakantaka, and the last one is Abhidhamma, 42,000 Dhammakantaka. The first two, which are Vinaya and Suttanta, these two are the result or the effects that caused by Abhidhamma, or we call it Hetu. Okay. For the next one, the step through Sikkha Dhamma, as we mentioned in many classes before, there are two main steps that are required for Sikkha Dhamma. The first step is to Sikkha Dhamma is to recite Citta 121, Cetasika 52, and Rupa 28. The second step is to be able to identify the difference of communication language and Dhamma language, because we need to translate communication language back to Dhamma language to Sikkha Dhamma. Otherwise, we will not be able to understand what Anuttara Samma Sambodhi said. First one is to recite Citta 121, Cetasika 52, and Rupa 28, as we always mention. This one is the very important first step, which is essential for the beginning of Sikkha Dhamma. That's why we always always insist everyone that attend the class to recite Citta 121, Cetasika 52, and Rupa 28. In the big picture, when Citta and Cetasika work together, they create Rupa. Within this chart, when we show that Citta work with Cetasika, we call Rupa. Rupa creates our body, our environment, our food, and our activities that we are involving with those activities in our daily lives. And it also the cause that make us go through the cycling of existence in 31 Bhumi. Okay. This is the group and the picture of Citta 121. All of you may have already familiar with this one. They are consisting of many groups in it. The first one is Kama Vajra Citta 54. The second group is Rupa Vajra Citta 15. And the third one is Arupa Vajra Citta 12. And the last one is Lokuttara Citta 40. And during our daily activities, we as a manusa, we stays in Kama Vajra Bhumi, and most of our citta stays in our citta that involved in our daily activities mainly in Kama Vajra Citta 54. Kama Vajra Citta 54 divided into three groups. The first one is Kusala Citta 12. The second one is Ahetuka Citta 18. The third one is Kama Vajra Sopana Citta 24. When we do it, when we perform our daily activities without involving with Dhamma that Anuttara Samma Sampoti mentioned or teach or tesana, that kind of activities are under the influence of Akusala Citta 12, which are Lopha Mula Citta 8, Tosa Mula Citta 2, and Moha Mula Citta 2. That's why we usually feel angry, hate, dissatisfied, something like that during our daily activities because of influence of Akusala Citta 12. That's also included when you feel hungry or when you feel full, when you eat too much food, or sick or something like that. Those activities and those feelings are under influence of Akusala Citta 12. And for normal function of your body, mostly they are under Ahetuka Citta 18. This one I explained to simplify them. There are much more details under that one, but to simplify, to show you the importance of citta that involved with your activities and your body function and things like that. Or Hetuka Citta 18 that perform with your body, like your eyes, your ears, your nose, your tongue, as we always mentioned in previous classes. And whenever you Sikkha Dhamma, that is when Kama Vajra Sopana Citta comes into action. Especially when you Sikkha Dhamma like this, under Kama Vajra Sopana Citta 24, there are three groups under this one. They are Kama Vajra Mahakusala Citta 8, Kama Vajra Mahavipaka Citta 8, and Kama Vajra Mahagriya Citta 8. For when you Sikkha Dhamma like this, when you recite Citta, Cetasika, Rupa, when you answer the Dhamma questions, when you are asked or when you explain Dhamma to others that are under the influence of Kama Vajra Mahakusala Citta 8, for example, like that. And whenever we Sikkha Dhamma and we can we improve ourselves and improve our citta function, then we can go from Kama Vajra Citta 54 into Rupa Vajra Citta 15 and Arupa Vajra Citta 12 and Lokuttara Citta 40.
Okay, น้องพลอย do you know which Citta is most important which Citta group is most important พลอยคะจิตกลุ่มไหนใน4กลุ่มที่พี่กันสอนสำคัญที่สุดคะกามาวจรจิตตะ54รูปาวจรจิตตะ15อรูปาวจรจิตตะ12โลกุตระจิตตะ40อันไหนสำคัญที่สุดคะน้องพลอย
ที่เกี่ยวข้องกับชีวิตประจำวันเราอะครับ
เดาซิ
พลอยหนูดูในชาร์ตสิคะว่ากลุ่มไหนอะสีไม่เหมือนคนอื่นเห็นไหมลูกอีกอันไหนนะหัวข้อไหนที่สีไม่เหมือนคนอื่นนะเห็นปะดูซิพี่กันลุงกันทำหัวข้อไหนที่สีไม่เหมือนคนอื่น
กามาวจรจิตตะ54
ถูกค่ะ
สาธุครับ
ถูกค่ะ
กามาวจรจิตตะ54จะเป็นจิตที่เกี่ยวข้องกับการใช้ชีวิตประจำวันของเราในฐานะเป็นมนุษย์มากที่สุดนะครับกามาวจรจิตตะ54 จิตตะ that involved with our daily activity as manusa mainly and for the first 3 type of manusa as we mentioned that manut nirayo manusa peto manut tirachano these 3 type of manusa involving only with akusala citta 12 and or for their body function is hetuka citta 18 also not only
น้องเบนค่ะ back to our slide okay น้องเบนcan you tell me if Papa no your mom and พี่ป้าแอนเนาะ go to the อุทยาน to clean up อุทยาน help for clean up อุทยาน what citta that perform
วันนี้พ่อกับแม่นั่ง stand in แทนเด็กๆนะคะเดี๋ยวขอแม่ตอบเด็กยังไม่ตื่นค่ะก็คิดว่าเป็นมหากุศลจิต8ค่ะ
สาธุ
ค่ะแม่ถูกพอชิบันยังไงก็ตอบถูกโอเคยังเหลือน้องพีคนหนึ่งน้องพีค่ะน้องพี what about โรกุfor รูปาวจรจิตตะ15 what is it
อะไรนะปิงพูดอีกทีสิคะ Say it again ปิงเด็กไม่ได้ยินอ่ะน้องกันพี่ปิงทำอะไรเด็ก
ๆไม่แน่ใจแต่ไม่เป็นไร
Okay so probably the signal is not good
so we go to next slide
right the next one อะไรนะ
okay
okay signal not so good เนาะ
Okay. For whenever we mention about citta always work with cetasika. So there are cetasika 52 altogether. They are divided into 3 groups. The first one is anyasmana cetasika 13. The second one is akusala cetasika 14, and the last one is sopana cetasika 25. And so I color it differently because the red one is the akusala one or the bad one, and the green one is the good one, akusala one. And for the blue one, that this one is the one that can interact with akusala or kusala one. They are kind of neutral or can work with akusala and kusala one. Okay. And as we mentioned that whenever Chitta interact with Cetasika, they create Rupa, and Rupa at the foundation of everything that we will explain further in the future, that they are classified into two groups. The first one is Mahabhuta Rupa 4, and the second group is Upataya Rupa 24, as you may have already able to recite them. Okay. Now, the second steps that required to Sikkha Dhamma is identified communication language and Dhamma language. That's quite easy because we translate our communication language into Makatha language first, and for Makatha language, we refer to the teaching of Gautama Buddha and translate Makatha language into Dhamma language. As you may have already known that, for example, like Lopa from English, greed, we translate into Makatha language. We call them Lopa, and Lopa refer to the teaching of Gautama Buddha. That means Lopa Mulacitta 8. The first one is Somanasa Sahakatang Titi Kata Sampayutang Asankarikang Kama Vajra Agusala Lopa Mulacitta. That is the first of 8 Lopa Mulacitta. Okay, that's for example how we translate communication language into Dhamma language, and that is the way we use to translate our communication language into Dhamma language, to Sikkha Dhamma, and to understand what Gautama Buddha teach. Okay. If for Manusa Niroyo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirachano, these 3 kind of Manusa, as we mentioned, that they are under influence of Akusala Citta 12. So they start from they start from their communication language. They use their communication language to study the knowledge that exists in their societies, for example, like biology, math, science, management, etc. Then they use their knowledge that exists in the society as a base, and they use their knowledge to Sikkha Dhamma. So they try to explain Dhamma by their knowledge. That's why they translate Dhamma back into their communication language, different from the model, the chart that I've just told you. The correct one is to translate your communication language in Makatha language and to Dhamma language. But with this chart, for normal people, Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirachano, they translate this language back into Makatha language and translate back into their communication language. That's why they work differently, different direction than the arrows that show in this chart. Instead of translate their communication language back into Makatha language and enter Dhamma language, they translate Dhamma language back into Makatha language and go back into their communication language. That's why they cannot Sikkha Dhamma, because they work different direction than it should be. Okay, this is the incorrect one that Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Tirachano, and Manusa Peto are using to Sikkha Dhamma. However, the correct one is that when we born and we have our communication language, we use our communication language to study the knowledge that exists in our society. Then at that point, we leave our knowledge about our communication language and our knowledge that we gain from our society aside, and back into Makatha language as a baby. Back into Dhamma language as a baby, we start to recite alphabet that used in Dhamma language, which are Citta, Cetasika, and Rupa, as we always mention. And then we use Citta, Cetasika, Rupa to try to understand the teaching of Gautama Buddha. For example, like when we mention about Lopa, Tosa, Moha, instead of thinking that about greed, about hate, about loath, something like that, we as we be able to recite Citta, Cetasika, and Rupa, then we relate Lopa Tosa Moha into Ropa Mulajita 8, Tosa Mulajita 2, and Moha Mulajita 2 altogether, Akusala Citta 12 instead of 8 Lord, something like that. So this is the beginning of using Dhamma language to Dhamma study, and to use Dhamma language as a base for Dhamma study or Sikkha Dhamma. This is the only way that can lead you to Nivarna. Otherwise, you cannot improve yourself and develop into Nivarna. You will be remains in this kind of chart whenever you use your communication language as a base and use your knowledge in that society as base to and you use them to identify what's the meaning in Dhamma teaching. You translate Dhamma language back into Makatha language and back into your communication language. That's why you cannot understand Dhamma that Gautama Buddha taught by doing by following this kind of chart. Translate back, and then you don't know what Nuttara Dhamma Sambodhi mentioned, teach. So the depth, now we go to the topic that we are going to discuss with this class, that the depth of Sikkha Dhamma and the different way of seeing the world of Sikkha Dhamma and common people, or Manusa Tevo and Manusa Niriyo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano. Start from a thinking model, as we has just mentioned, that Manusa Niriyo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano, they under influence of us, their daily activity classified into 3 sanya. The first is Kama Sanya, Kochara Sanya, and Morana Sanya. These sanya consisting of having food, sleep, get rest, transport, travel, work, study, something like that. And for Manusa Niriyo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano, as we mentioned before, that they are the thinking model is whenever they study Dhamma, they translate Dhamma back into their communication language, and then they use their knowledge to discuss and to try to understand translated Dhamma. For example, like Lopa, instead of refer Lopa to Lopa Mulajita 8, as Anuttara Samma Sampodhi mentioned, they translate Lopa into greed, and they discuss about greed using their knowledge, how to stop greed. That is the way of Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, and Manusa Tirashano think, and that is the way they study Dhamma. That's the way of Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano. However, for Manusa Tevo, as we shown in the chart, that before we Sikkha Dhamma, we know our communication language. We can use our communication language fluently, and then we also have the knowledge that exists in our society, like biology, math, science, something like that. And before we Sikkha Dhamma, we leave our knowledge and communication language aside. We start from Cetasic Rupa, and then we translate our communication language back into Makatha language. And Makatha language refers to the teaching of Gautama Buddha, and to explain everything that Gautama Buddha mentioned or Tesana, we try to understand them based on Citta, Cetasika, and Rupa activities, which are the basic building blocks of Abhidhamma. That's how we understand the teaching of Gautama Buddha or Sikkha Dhamma, and that is the first step that leads to Nivarna in the end.
Tewata Phumi have what they use for communication language in Tewata Phumi, in Naraka Phumi, and in Brahma Phumi, Arupa Brahma Phumi.
For communication language within those Phumi, they also have that language. For example, like because whenever we when we mention about the Bhumi that cannot be seen, it's quite hard for people to imagine. So I prefer to compare them to another Bhumi that we see with our bare eyes, which is Tirachana Bhumi. Tirachan Bhumi. For example, like bird, like dog, like cat, they also have their communication language. They can see that whenever they feel hungry, they can communicate with us or with other groups of their type of animal. They have certain act or certain sound that they create when they feel hungry, feel hate, feel angry, something like that. That's another form of language. They also have their expression during the voice or during the through their activities, to the action. That's also the form of the language they are used. But when we go back, as we mentioned, that whenever we explain things, the cause that make the effects in Dhamma, we go back to Abhidhamma. For Abhidhamma, the base of Abhidhamma is are Citta, Cetasika, and Rupa. For communication language that we are using, for the verbal communication that we're using, that kind of way of communication is based on Vitaka, Vichara, Vitaka Cetasika, and Vichara Cetasika. That is the way we communicate, and that is the basic communication components when we explain under Abhidhamma. So when the way we talk, the voice, also include in other Bhumi that they use Vitaka Cetasika and Vichara Cetasika.
Okay. For Naraka Bhumi, there is no talking because it is sufferings all the time. Is that right?
Well, actually, they have screaming.
Oh, screaming, no talking. So they're screaming in order to know that they are suffering all the time. And for the Tevatas, Bhumi, for the Purmi and Arupa Purmi, they use Makatha language too. So we encourage everybody in order to para Paputavachana, in order to you can talk in other Bhumi, in Tevata Bhumi. The upper Bhumi use Makatha language. So we have to recite that. If you don't recite that, you still want to use only Thai, only English, and only communication language in our world. No? When you pass away from this world, you cannot talk with other people and you cannot go out, no? Is that right,พี่กัน
Satuครับ
สาธุค่ะ
And as Pippin mentioned, for communication language, for the language that we use, for Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirachano, they use communication language according to their nation. English, Thai, Hindi, etc. And for Manusa Tevo, apart from communication language, there depends on their nations, their mother language. Then they have another knowledge with Dhamma language and how to translate their communication language into Dhamma language. And they use Dhamma language in order to Sikkha Dhamma. That is the different way of the language that Manusa Niryo, Manusa Beto, Manusa Tirachano are used, and Manusa Tevo are used. So for Manusa Tevo, they must have another form of language, which is Dhamma language. And for Dhamma language, for Manusa Tevo, as we mentioned, this kind of language are universal language, not only through every nation in this world, we speak in the same language, which if we are in Sikkha Dhamma, for example, like Lopa, we refer to Lopa Mulajita 8. This is universal truth of everyone speaking Dhamma language within this world, and not only this world, as we mentioned, that this kind of understanding also go through 31 Bhumi, depends on the language that you use. But however, the back into the basic of Abhidhamma will be the same, exist in every Bhumi, every Bhumi. For example, like Lopa Mulajita 8. When we mention Lopa, for example, for the beginners, we relate Lopa to Lopa Mulajita 8 as we are human. Whenever you go to Teva Bhumi, Brahma Bhumi, they also refer to Lopa Mulajita 8 as beginning. And for Lopa Mulajita 8, the first one is Somana Sasa Katang Titi Kata Sampayutang Asankari Kankama Vajra Agusara Lopa Mulajita. Everyone that speaks Dhamma language will refer and be able to recite this the same. This word are the same. Okay, and for
every Paramattha, what language that Paramattha for the ex Paramattha or the past Paramattha also use language. What language that Paramattha use? 3 million 800 อะไรนะ3,584,192 พุทธะ also use Makatha language or not?
Well, for Tesana Dhamma, Anuttara Samma Sampoti use Makatha language. However, Makatha language, whenever Anuttara Samma Sampoti use, that is not Makatha language anymore. It will become Paramattha Dhamma. And when become Paramattha Dhamma, when that language become Paramattha Dhamma contains when Anuttara Samma Sampoti alive, that Paramattha Dhamma contain Puttha Chakku for Maha Giriya Yana Sampayut Maha Giriya Citta 4. The first one, they are Somanasasa Katang Yana Sampayutang Asankhari Kankama Vajra Mahagriya Chittang, Somanasasa Katang Yana Sampayutang Sasankhari Kankama Vajra Mahagriya Chittang, Upekasa Katang Yana Sampayutang Asankhari Kankama Vajra Mahagriya Chittang, Upekasa Katang Yana Sampayutang Sasankhari Kankama Vajra Mahagriya Chittang. These 4 citta are Puttha Chakku. They exist in Dhamma Tesana when Anuttara Samma Sampoti teach during the period that Anuttara Samma Sampoti was alive. However, today Anuttara Samma Sampoti enters Parinibbana already. So in each Dhamma that we Sikkha, each word contain, we call it Samanta Chakku. Samanta Chakku is the only first citta of Mahagriya Citta 8, which called Somana Sasa Katang Yana Sampayutang Asankhari Kankama Vajra Mahagriya Citta. This citta resides in every Dhamma word that we heard, that we read. This is the power of Anuttara Samma Sampoti that resides in every words that we read today. Okay. For our daily activities, when we comparing with the Manusa Niriyo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashanu, and Manusa Tevo, for the first 3 types of Manusa Niriyo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashanu, as we mentioned, their daily activity are classified into only 3 main groups. The first one is Kama Sanya, Kochar Sanya, and Mora Sanya. However, for Manusa Tevo, they have special activities which is Sikkha Dhamma that called Dhamma Sanya. Apart from the first 3 Sanya, which whenever Manusa Nirayo doing Sanya 3, they go back into Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashanu. However, when they perform Dhamma Sanya, they go back, they transform themselves from Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Beto, Manusa Tirachano into Manusa Tevo and Sikkha Dhamma. That is the difference between normal people and the people who Sikkha Dhamma in daily activities. And for knowledge, Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Beto, Manusa Tirachano, they have that knowledge on their according to their society and their technology. And Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Tevo, they have special set of knowledge, which is Dhamma. And for Dhamma is so advanced and very and quite hard to understand, very elaborate and very profound. So for Dhamma, whenever you Sikkha Dhamma and when you understand how things work under Dhamma explanation, then you know you can perform you can understand your the knowledge that exists in your society much better, because the knowledge that you gain from Dhamma explain what will happen beyond the knowledge of the knowledge that we know today, and beyond the theory, what happened beyond that theory. Dhamma can explain those very well. And to understand cause and effects, as we mentioned to you in previous class, for normal people, they relate cause and effects only with their with the level that they can see, that feel, that touch with their 5 senses. For example, like when it rains, people think that the rain caused by cloud, and then too much rain caused flood. That is the sample of cause and effects of Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Beto, Manusa Tirachano. However, for Manusa Tevo, when we Sikkha Dhamma, we related cause and effect differently. The cloud, flood, evaporation are classified as the effects. However, the cause resides in Abhidhamma, and that is the different way of Manusa Tevo see the world. When we identify cause and effects differently, when we solve the problem, we also solve them differently. Because when Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Beto, Manusa Tirachano identify that their house flood because too much rain, so they try to raise the house a bit higher than the ground to prevent a flood from too much water from the rain. However, for Manusa Tevo, because we identify cause and effects differently, we see the flood, too much rain cause flood as effects and effects. However, the cause remains in the action of Citta, Cetasika that cause rupa. So try not to get your house under the flood, not only this life, but the next and the next life. So we need to fix what caused the flood in our Citta and Cetasika activities before it creates rupa and create your house, get flood, things like that. So it works differently. And for occurrence of things, Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Beto, Manusa Tirachano knows the world as the science said. For example, like they start from very small particles, small objects, and it's in quark form, and then expanded into universe and to galaxies like that. And it's also happened in different time frame. The first step create from very, very small things that we talk about, the very rapid time in milliseconds, in much faster than milliseconds, and then seconds and years, different time frame. Okay. That is the way of Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano understand the occurrence of things. However, Manusa Te will understand things beyond that, because the teaching of Gautama Buddha beyond the knowledge of science that exists of the Dhamma that Anuttara Samma Sambuddhi mentioned. Science only known about these small steps. However, the furthermore important one, and the very important one, that how they create the universe and create yourself, are explained by the teaching of Gautama Buddha. That's the knowledge that Manusa Te will possess them. And 5 senses.
พี่แอนคะพี่แอนช่วยอธิบายให้น้องพลอยเข้าใจนิดนึงเดี๋ยวจะตามกันไม่ทัน
เดี๋ยวน้องพลอยเดี๋ยวเราค่อยๆอธิบายทีละนิด
อย่างนั้นเดี๋ยวอธิบายตามหลังแล้วกันเนาะ
And for 5 senses, Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano, only understand about the 5 senses as and can sense them by using their body. But Manusa Tevo, with the teaching of Gautama Buddha, these kind of Manusa, they understand beyond their 5 senses, how 5 senses interact with Citta, Cetasika, and Rupa, how their 5 senses cause their next life, and what the effects of 5 senses through the interaction of Citta and Cetasika and Rupa. Understand much more profound than Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano. That's why it caused Manusa Nirayo calm and happy during all the time, instead of angry, hate, loathing, satisfied. That happens with Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano, because Manusa Tevo knows things much more than Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano know. Okay. That's why I mentioned that mostly Manusa Te will stay calm and happy, because they know what happened in this world and the interaction with things. However, Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano, they know nothing. They know only the knowledge that the 5 senses can interact with. So that's why that feeling occur in everyday lives, are staying in happy, indifferent, sad, dissatisfied, angry, hate, envy, etc. Things like that, because they don't know what really happened beyond their knowledge. But Manusa Tevo, they know what really happened and what relationship between things around them, and not only in this Manusa Bhumi, in others Bhumi also, and they also knows the way to end the cycle of existence. That they know what they are doing. That's why they feel happy and they calm and they feel confident in everything that they do, because they know what will happen. And for the understanding of working system, for example, like one of your 5 senses for your eyes, Manusa Nirayo, Manusa Peto, Manusa Tirashano knows as a science said. However, beyond that, Manusa Tevo knows what Anuttara Samma Sambuddhi says about the function of the eyes, and how we perceive things, how we see things, and how things that we see interact with our Citta, Cetasika, and how they create Rupa, and how the things we see related interact with the things that we are going to create in our next life and the next life, things like that are taught by Gautama Buddha, and that kind of knowledge are possessed, and that kind of knowledge is possessed by Manusa Tevo. And now, the quiz time. A little question for you. This one is not difficult, I think. Pian Kap, would you please help me asking kids to answer this question. Please fill in the blank. This one, what is this one? Manusa Nirayo.
น้องที
And
can you answer this question ครับ อะไรนะ มนุษย์
this one is missing. This one. Manusa Nirayo. Manusa. And Manusa Tirayo.
รู้สึกเปโต
เปโตใช่ไหมสาธุค่ะ
Which one?
น้อง
wanted
พลอยได้ไหมthis is easy เนาะพี่กันเนาะ so อะไรคะน้องพลอยอันสุดท้า
This
ย
is one called
มนุษย์อะไรลูก อะไรนะที่ดีกว่าคนอื่นเลย สิกขาธรรมต้องอะไรคะมนุษย์อะไรคะลูกคิดสิลูกคิดสิเมื่อกี้พี่กันพูดใช่ไหมน้องทีกระซิบเลยน้องทีกระซิบน้องพลอยเลยพี่ทีกระซิบได้ไหมครับ มนุษย์อะไรครับ
มนุษย์เทโว
สาธุค่ะถูกต้องค่ะ
how about this one? Sanya tree consisting of Kama Sanya, Khochara Sanya, and
อะไรนะทีครับพี่ทีกามสัญญาโคจรสัญญาแอนเรากลัวตายไหมกลัวไหมครับ เรากลัวไหมเขาเรียกว่าอะไรนะ เรากลัวตายใช่ไหมเรากลัวเจ็บเรากลัวตายเรากลัวแก่เรากลัวอะไรคะอะไรลูก
นะสัญญา
สาธุค่ะถูกต้องเลยมรณสัญญา
how
และอัน
about
นี้เรียกว่าอะไร
Sanya that belongs to Manusa Tevo?
วิสัญญาคะใครตอบได้แย่งกันเลยลูก we have only 2 kids today เร็วเดี๋ยวพี่ทีแย่งตอบนะพลอยอะไรสัญญาคะเรากำลังเรียน
ทำโดยมนุษย์เทโว
เราเรียนอะไรอยู่ลูกเราเรียนอะไรคลาสอะไรคะ
ธรรมะ
เพราะฉะนั้นเป็นอะไรคะเป็นอะไรลูกธรรมะอะไรเติมคำว่าอะไรลงไป
ธรรมะ
สัญญาใช่พลอยถูกเลยพลอยคิดถูกแล้วนะลูกพลอยเรียนมานานแล้วตอบได้เลยไหนพี่การดูสิคะถูกไหม
ถูกครับ
โอเค
this one steps to Sikkha Dhamma. The first step for Sikkha Dhamma is to recite what?
recite อะไร
เราต้องจำอะไร
ใช่เราต้องจำอะไรน้องพลอยเราต้องทำอะไรคะ จำอะไรลูก
Sikkha Dhamma ขั้นตอนแรกต้องจำอะไรครับ
จิตตะ121
โอ้ยจิตตะ121แล้วพลอยจำได้กี่จิตแล้ว ไปถึงไหนแล้วเนี่ยนะหนูพลอยต้องท่องนะลูก
แล้วอะไรอีกนะมีแค่จิตตะแล้วอะไรอีกนะจำอะไรอีกนะ
จิตแล้วอะไรอีกพิธีละตอนนี้ต้องพิธีแล้วพิธีท่องได้แล้วใช่จิต
52
เอาพลอยก็ตอบได้แต่ยังท่องไม่ได้ใช่ไหม
อะไรอีก
ไม่เป็นไรเดี๋ยวค่อยๆไปนะลูกนะ
จำอะไร
จิต121 J-sic 52 and อะไรคะพิธี
28
โอเครูปบัตร28 28 okay
that is the first step and for the second step for Dhamma study is to be able to identify communication language and what and what language communication language and what language
can you tell sorry ค่ะ can you tell me what is communication language น้องทีมีภาษาอะไรบ้าง
ภาษาแบบทุกภาษาโลก
ใช่ไหมเพราะฉะนั้นทุกภาษาโลกเราเรียนแล้วใช่ไหมเราเรียนไทย English you know there are many languages and we need to know about which language คะน้องพลอยคะช่วยพิธีแล้วธรรมะไหม
Dhamma.
Dhamma language because it's too different.
Dhamma language. Which one is missing? What? How about this one? น้องปอย
อันนี้หนูได้ลูกหนูท่องอะไรนะกลุ่มแรก
ชื่ออะไรที่ในกลุ่มเขาจะมีโลภะมูลจิตตะ8โทสะมูลจิตตะ2โมหะมูลจิตตะ2
พี่ทีบอกเลยอะไรลูกเรียกว่าอะไร
ของหัวข้อน้องพลอย
กามาวจรจิตตา54ประกอบด้วยเร็วพลอยกามาวจรจิตตา54ประกอบด้วย1คะแนนอะไรเร็วอันแรกอะไรคะ
อเหตุกจิตต12
วิจะข้ามไปทำไมคะเอาใหม่อเหตุกะอยู่อันที่2อันแรกสิลูกกามาวจรจิตตา54ประกอบด้วย1พี่ทีบอกน้องเลยเร็ว
อกุศลจิตต12
อกุศลจิตตา12
and under hetuka citta 18 that consisting of akusala vipaka citta 7 and
อันนี้ต้องพิธีไหมพิธีครับ
พิธีจังหวะ
ทุกจิตตา
ตอบแล้วพิธีตอบแล้วว่าเป็นอเหตุกะกุศลจิตตะใช่ไหมลูกวิปากะอเหตุกะกุศลวิปากะจิตตะโอเคไหมโอเค
how about this one
apply guesses ได้สิคะลูกได้ไหม
what is it called
อะไรมี15พลอยคิดแล้ว
พี่ทีบอกกันอะไรคะคล้ายๆกับอันที่3แหละลูกแต่ไม่มี A
ไม่มี
อะไรคะไม่มี A ใช่อะไรเมื่อกี้ถูกแล้ว15น้องพลอยมั่นใจลูกตอบได้เลยหนูเรียนนานและหนูรู้แหละไปแอนทราบนะคะเป็นอะไรนะคะรูปาพูดอีกทีพูดให้พี่กันชื่นใจแล้วรูปาว
จรจิตตา15
สาธุค่ะ
ครับคราวนี้วันนี้ล่ะ
อันนี้พิธีได้ไหมครับ
โลภะจิตตา
20เก่งมากเลย
สาธุ
ใช่สาธุค่ะเก่งมากพิธีเก่งมาก
The last one this one
okay for the Ariya Bukhara there are 4 right the first is Sotapanna the second is Sagatthakami the third one is Anakami and what about the last one คะเราอยากเป็นอะไรคะ the last one Sotapanna Sagatthakami Anakamiและอะไรคะ
ธรรมจิต
ดูอันข้างๆพี่กันชี้อันข้างๆเนี่ยซ้ายมือเนี่ยลูกตรงกันบรรทัดตรงกันเขาบอกว่าอะไร
อเหตุกะ
จิตใจเจ้า no อันนี้นี่พี่กันชี้ช้าๆโสตาปันนะสักกทาคามิอนาคามิแอนอันนี้อันสุดท้ายเนี่ยอะไรละอะไรคะ
จิตตะ
อรหัตตะถูกไหมพิธีเยโอเคอรหัตตะภาระจิตตะ5โอเคไหมนะสาธุค่ะ
how about Cetasika this one
พี่กันที่ได้ไปฮัลโหลโอเคอัญญสมนาเจติสกะ13ประกอบด้วย
มัน
เป็นอะไรนะ
this one what is it
จำได้ไหมครับจำได้ไหมพี่กันช่วยน้อง
สัพพะ
จิตตา
พิธีได้แล้ว
how many of them
ครับ
สาธุครับ seven อกุศลเจตสิกะ how many อกุศลเจตสิกะ
มีเท่าไหร่จำได้ไหมครับพี่ที
10
10เท่าไหร่นะ10เท่าไหร่
14
โอเค
and what is this one
หนูลองท่องสิคะอกุศลเจตสิกะ14ประกอบด้วยโมจตุกะเจตสิกะ4โลติกะเจตสิกะ3อันที่3คืออะไรลูกโมหะไปแล้วโลภะไปแล้วเหลืออะไรนะ
โทสะ
โคจะ
จตุกะเจตสิกะใช่ไหมคะโฟเก่งมากพี่ทีเก่งมากนะเนี่ยโอเค The last topic for Jetasika 52 is
we have Anyasmana Jetasika 13 Akusala Jetasika 14 and
อันสุดท้าย
so
พี่ทีดำได้ไหมคะพี่ทีต้องเป็นหลักน้องพลอยท่องไม่ได้พี่ทีบอกได้เลยบอกเลย
20
โสภณะใช่ค่ะเจตสิกะ25
สาธุครับ and how about this one how about this one can you remember this one
โสภณะเจตสิกะ25ประกอบด้วยลองท่องสิครับแรกอะไร
โสภณะสาธารณะเจตสิกะ19
อะไรนะที่มี3อะไรที่มี3ถูกแล้วลูกเมื่อกี้ป้าแอบได้ยินอะไรนะฮะ
วินาทีเจต
สิกะ3เก่งค่ะเก่งโอเค
รูปะ how about this one มหาพุทธรูปะ4 and
คือโปมหาพุทธรูปะ
ไม่
this one is มหาพุทธรูปะ4 and this one the missing word
ไปตรงนี้ใช่ไหม
what is it
ไม่รู้
อันนี้จำได้ไหมอะไรมี24คุณไหมลูกรูปะ28ประกอบด้วยมหาภูตะรูปะ4 and อะไรคะอุปาทะใช่อุปาทยรูปะ24โอเค
so the time is up
มหาภูตะรูปะ4ก่อนพี่กัน
มหาพุทธรูปะ4 how about this one what is the missing
เมื่อกี้หนูตอบไปแล้ว
ใช่
อะไรนะลูกขาดอะไรเนี่ยมหาพุทธโปเก่งมากค่ะจะตอบแล้วลูกเดี๋ยวได้ไปกินข้าวแล้วลูกถ้าหนูตอบช้าหนูจะกินข้าวช้า
รูปะ5พิเศษรูปะ4 and
แล้วอะไรนะเร็วอะไรมี2อย่าง
รูปะ4แล้วรูปะ2
ไม่ใช่อันนี้เป็นรูปะแล้ว
น้องเบนมาแล้วเหรอ
ใช่ครับ
เบน help ทีครับโอ้แล้วน้องเบนช่วยกันเร็วนี่เห็นไหมเบนมาแล้วที
which one is this one
ที่มี
กินเจนยาส
อะไรกินมาจากไหนเดี๋ยวเอาใหม่ลูกตั้งใจหน่อยป้ากับลุงตื่นเช้า
มาดราสเบนว่ารูปะ2เลย
เขารูปะ2
แม่ตอบแทนดีมาก
ว่า this one
อันนั้นหัตถยชีวิตรูปะ
1ชีวิตรูปะ1 and
เร็วเราหิวข้าวแล้วเนี่ยเราต้องไปทำอะไร
กิน
เราอยากกินอะไรลูกเราหิวข้าว
รูปะกับ
รูปะ1สาธุครับ
อยู่ข้าวแล้ว
The last one
ถามว่า
อันนี้เป็นตอบได้เมื่อกี้
รักบูปสี
สาธุครับ
แล้วไงครับสาธุ
พระเอกเลย
โอ้
In summary, in this class, we mentioned about the depth of Sikkha Dhamma and the difference in the way of seeing the world of Sikkha Dhamma and common people. Okay, that will be the summary of this class. If, do you have any questions? Okay, if there is no question, that will be end of this class. สาธุครับ
ค่ะสาธุ everyone นะคะเด็กๆสาธุค่ะสาธุปิงสาธุป้าหนิงและสาธุ everyone ค่ะ
สาธุ 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 Good done
ค่ะ